Captain Jake Martinez stared out at the endless field of stars through the bridge window of the New Frontier. 3 years into their mission, his crew had traveled farther from Earth than any human before them. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams into the unknown. "Captain, we're picking up some strange readings ahead," said Amy Carter from her communications station. Her voice carried a note of excitement mixed with worry. "It's not like anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed massive energy signatures moving in formation. Whatever was out there was big and clearly artificial. "How many contacts, Amy?" "At least 12, sir. Maybe more. They're huge. Each one is the size of a small city." Dr. Lisa Thompson looked up from her science station. "Captain, these readings suggest technology far beyond anything we have on Earth. The energy output alone is incredible." Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez joined them at the center of the bridge. His face was serious as he studied the data. "If those are ships, they're using some kind of power source we don't understand. The quantum signatures are off the charts." Jake felt his heart rate increase. For 3 years, they had searched for signs of alien life. Now it seemed they had found more than they bargained for. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Amy, try to establish communications." The bridge lights dimmed to red as the crew prepared for the unknown. Jake had trained for this moment his whole life, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. "Captain, they're responding to our hails," Amy said, her face pale. "But the signal is unlike anything in our databases. It's coming through, on frequencies we didn't even know existed." Suddenly, the main screen flickered to life. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge freeze in shock. A tall, crystalline being with translucent blue skin stared back at them. It had 6 arms, each ending in hands with too many fingers. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of emptiness. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of breaking glass mixed with the hum of electricity. "Primitive creatures, you have entered space claimed by the Zephyrian Empire. I am War Commander Thylex 9 of the Conquest Fleet Epsilon. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be processed." Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Jake Martinez of the Earthship New Frontier. We come in peace. We're explorers, not conquerors." Thylex 9's expression didn't change, but something like amusement flickered in those dark eyes. "Earth. We have not heard of this world. No matter. You will tell us its location so we may add it to our collection. Your species will serve the Empire, as all species must." "I'm afraid I can't do that," Jake replied. "We represent the free people of Earth. We don't serve anyone." The alien's 6 arms moved in what might have been a gesture of dismissal. "All species say this at first, then they learn. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled the stars for 3,000 of your years. We have conquered 1,000 worlds and made slaves of countless species. Your tiny ship and primitive weapons cannot resist us." Tony whispered urgently to Jake. "Captain, our sensors are showing their ships moving into attack formation. Their weapons are powering up." Jake kept his eyes on the alien commander. "We don't want to fight you. Surely there's room in the galaxy for both our peoples to exist in peace." Thylex 9 made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace is what you will have when you kneel before Zephyrian might. But first, you will demonstrate the consequences of defiance." The transmission cut off. Immediately, Amy's station lit up, with alarms. "Captain, 12 massive ships are surrounding us. They're each at least 10 times our size." "Shields up. Weapons ready," Jake ordered, though he knew it was probably useless. The New Frontier was an exploration vessel, not a warship. They had basic defensive systems and a few mining lasers converted for protection, but nothing that could threaten ships of that size. "Tony, give me everything you've got in the engines. If we can outrun them—" His words were cut off as the ship suddenly shuddered. Every system on the bridge flickered and died for a moment before emergency power kicked in. When the lights came back on, Jake realized they weren't moving anymore. "What happened?" he demanded. Tony's hands flew over his controls, but nothing responded. "They hit us with some kind of energy pulse. It didn't damage us, but it shut down." Every system we have. Main engines, weapons, even life support is running on backup power. Lisa's voice was barely a whisper. How is that possible? Our shielding should have protected us from any electromagnetic pulse. Their technology is beyond anything we've ever seen, Amy said, staring at her dead communications panel. They didn't destroy us because they don't need to. They can control us completely without firing a shot. The main screen flickered back to life, showing Thylex 9 again. Your ship is now under our control. You will be brought aboard our flagship for questioning. Resistance will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel and crew. Jake felt helpless as he watched through the bridge windows. Massive mechanical arms extended from the nearest Zephyrian ship, gently but firmly grasping the new frontier. They were being pulled toward what looked like a docking bay in the alien vessel's hull. Amy, can you get a message back to Earth? Jake asked quietly. She worked frantically at her station, using every trick she knew. I'm trying, Captain. Most of our systems are locked down, but I might be able to get something through on an emergency frequency. Do it. Tell them what we found. Tell them we're not alone, and we're not the dominant species out here. Amy's fingers flew across her controls. After a few tense minutes, she nodded. Message sent, sir. I encoded it in an old emergency protocol. If anyone on Earth is listening, they'll get the warning. Jake watched as the new frontier was pulled into the alien ship. The docking bay doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Emergency lights bathed everything in an eerie red glow as armed Zephyrian soldiers surrounded their ship. Well, crew, Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. It looks like we're about to become Earth's first ambassadors to an alien empire. Let's try to make a good impression. Tony laughed grimly. Think they'll be interested in peaceful coexistence? Somehow I doubt it, Lisa replied, watching as the aliens prepared to board their ship. Jake straightened his uniform and prepared to face whatever came next. He had no idea that Amy's message had successfully reached Earth, or that it would change the course of human history forever. All he knew was that humanity had just discovered it was not alone in the universe, and the neighbors were not friendly. Admiral Kevin Brooks was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm screamed through Seoul Defense Command headquarters. He dropped his cup and ran to the main control room, where dozens of technicians were working frantically at their stations. What's the situation? Kevin demanded as he reached the central command console. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Davis looked up from her screen, her face pale. Sir, we received a coded transmission 30 minutes ago from the New Frontier. It's Captain Martinez's ship, but the message is fragmented and encrypted with old emergency protocols. Kevin felt his stomach drop. The New Frontier had been out of contact for weeks, which wasn't unusual given the distances involved. But an emergency transmission using old codes meant serious trouble. Let me hear it, he ordered. The speakers crackled with static before Amy Carter's voice came through, distorted and breaking up. Seoul Defense Command, this is Communications Officer Carter aboard New Frontier. We have made contact with hostile alien forces. Repeat, hostile alien contact. They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire, technology far superior to ours. They have enslaved multiple species across the galaxy, ship captured, sending all data we collected. Warn Earth. They will come for us. The transmission cut to static. The entire control room fell silent. Kevin stared at the speakers for a long moment. After 30 years in the military, he had prepared for many threats to humanity. Alien invasion had always been a theoretical possibility, but one that seemed unlikely. Now it was real. Get me President Gonzalez immediately, he ordered, and wake up every member of the Global Defense Council. We have a code black situation. 2 hours later, Kevin stood in the secure briefing room beneath the White House. President Maria Gonzalez sat at the head of the table, surrounded by the most powerful military and scientific minds on Earth. General Paul Davis, head of Earth's Space Forces, studied the data they had received from the New Frontier. Dr. Rachel Kim, the planet's leading expert on theoretical aliens warfare, was already running calculations on her tablet. How certain are we that this transmission is genuine? President Gonzalez asked. Kevin nodded to the technician operating the display screen. The encryption codes check out, Madam President. The transmission came from the New Frontier's exact year, last known position, and the technical data they sent shows technology signatures unlike anything in our databases. Dr. Rachel Kim looked up from her tablet. The energy readings are extraordinary. If these aliens can generate this much power, their weapons would be devastating. Our current defensive systems wouldn't last 5 minutes against ships of this size. General Paul Davis leaned forward. How long do we have? Unknown, sir, Kevin replied. The transmission suggests they were captured, but we don't know if Captain Martinez told them Earth's location. If he held out, we might have months, or even years. If not, they could arrive any time. President Gonzalez rubbed her temples. Recommendations? We need to militarize everything we have in space immediately, General Davis said. Every cargo ship, every mining vessel, every research station needs to be converted for defense. We also need to accelerate all our advanced weapons programs. Doctor. Rachel Kim nodded. I'll need access to the alien technology data. There might be weaknesses we can exploit. Every species has limits to their technology. Kevin stood up and walked to the star map on the wall. We also need to consider that Captain Martinez and his crew are still alive. If we can rescue them, they'll have invaluable intelligence about our enemies. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, on the Zephyrian capital world of Thyros Prime, Jake Martinez sat in a cell that looked like it was carved from black crystal. The walls pulsed with a faint blue light, and the air smelled of ozone and something metallic. His crew had been separated immediately after their capture. Jake didn't know where Lisa, Tony, or Amy were being held, or even if they were still alive. The Zephyrians had questioned him for hours about Earth's location, military strength, and population. Jake had told them nothing. The cell door dissolved into mist, and a guard entered. This Zephyrian was different from the others Jake had seen. Instead of the military uniform worn by Thylex 9, this one wore simple robes and moved with the careful steps of someone very old. Human Jake Martinez, the alien said in heavily accented English. I am Keeper Zyth 2. I maintain the records of conquered species. Jake stood up slowly. Have you come to interrogate me too? Zyth 2 made a gesture with 4 of his 6 arms. No. I have come to prepare you for what is to come. Your species will be conquered, as all species are conquered. But the transition will be easier if you understand your place in the Empire. And what place is that? You will be laborers. Your world will provide resources and manufacturing for the Empire. Your people will live, but they will serve. It is the natural order. Jake felt anger building in his chest. The natural order according to who? You? According to 3,000 years of galactic history, Zyth 2 replied calmly. The strong rule the weak, the advanced guide the primitive. The Zephyrian Empire brings order to chaos. What about the other species you've conquered? Do they agree with this natural order? For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered in Zyth 2's black eyes. Some adapt quickly. Others require more time to understand their role. Jake was led through corridors lined with cells. In some, he glimpsed other aliens. A creature that looked like a giant sea turtle with glowing tentacles watched him pass. In another cell, something that appeared to be made of living light pulsed weakly against the walls. They entered a larger chamber where dozens of aliens sat in groups. Jake realized this was some kind of common area for prisoners. A creature that looked like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus approached him. It spoke in broken English. You are the new human, it said. I am Elder Keth of the Siren people. We have been guests of the Empire for 47 years. Guests? Jake asked. Elder Keth's tentacles writhed in what might have been bitter amusement. That is what they call us. We prefer the term prisoners. Over the following days, Jake learned about the other species held on Thyros Prime. The Sirens had been one of the first races conquered by the Zephyrians. The insectoid Vex had resisted for 6 months before their hive worlds fell. The energy-based Luminians had tried to hide in gas giant atmospheres, but Zephyrian technology had found them there too. Has anyone ever successfully fought back? Jake asked Elder Keth during one of their conversations. The old siren was quiet for a long time. There are legends among my people, stories of fire-born warriors who would come from the outer darkness to break the chains of slavery. But they are just stories told to comfort the young. Maybe they're more than stories, Jake said. Elder Keth looked at him with large, intelligent eyes. You truly believe your people can resist the Empire? Jake thought of Amy's emergency transmission, of Admiral Brooks and all the brilliant minds on Earth who were probably working right now to prepare humanity's defense. I believe we'll try, and I believe that sometimes trying is enough. Back on Earth, Colonel Steve Watson supervised the hasty conversion of civilian spacecraft into military vessels. Cargo haulers were being fitted with missile pods. Mining ships received armor plating and energy weapons. It wasn't pretty, but it was the best they could do with the time they had. In her laboratory, Dr. Rachel Kim worked around the clock analyzing the alien technology signatures from Jake's ship. She had made one crucial discovery. The Zephyrian power systems seemed to rely heavily on quantum resonance fields. If she could find a way to disrupt those fields, it might level the playing field. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station, watching Earth's hasty preparations. Ships moved in all directions, carrying supplies and weapons to defensive positions throughout the solar system. He knew it probably wouldn't be enough, but humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They would find a way to survive. This too. He just hoped Jake Martinez and his crew could hold out long enough for Earth to be ready for what was coming. 6 months after Jake Martinez's capture, the Zephyrian conquest fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 massive dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. Their hulls gleamed, with an otherworldly blue light that seemed to bend space around them. War Commander Thylex 9 stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the small blue planet ahead. After his failure to break the human prisoners, the High Command had given him one last chance to prove himself. The conquest of this primitive world would restore his honor or seal his fate. Open communications to the planet, he ordered his subordinates. The transmission reached every screen, radio, and communication device on Earth simultaneously. Thylex 9's crystalline face appeared to billions of humans at once, his 6 arms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. Primitive beings of Earth, his voice echoed across the planet. I am War Commander Thylex 9 of the Zephyrian Empire. Your explorers have been captured and your location revealed. You will surrender immediately and prepare for processing. Your world will serve the Empire, as all worlds must serve. Resistance is futile and will only bring suffering. At Sol Defense Command, Admiral Kevin Brooks watched the transmission with his senior staff. When it ended, he stepped forward to the communications console and opened a channel that would broadcast his response across the galaxy. This is Admiral Kevin Brooks of Earth Defense Command, he said, his voice calm and steady. We have received your terms. Here is our counteroffer. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. Earth does not kneel to anyone. On the Zephyrian flagship, Thylex 9's officers looked at each other in shock. No species had ever refused surrender so directly. The war commander's eyes narrowed to slits of pure anger. Impossible, he hissed. They cannot comprehend our power. Begin standard conquest protocol. Destroy their orbital installations first, then their major cities. Leave enough survivors to serve as laborers. The Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth's outer defenses. Their massive ships bristled with weapons that could shatter moons. Energy cannons powered up with a sound like thunder rolling across space. But Earth was ready. Captain Sarah Miller led the first wave of human fighters from their hidden positions in the asteroid belt. Her squadron of 12 modified ships had been built for this moment. They were small, fast, and equipped with Dr. Rachel Kim's new quantum disruption missiles. Remember the plan, Sarah broadcast to her pilots. Hit fast, hit hard, and get out. Don't try to match them ship to ship. We're wasps fighting elephants. The human fighters struck like lightning. They came from 6 different directions at once, their small size making them almost invisible to Zephyrian sensors designed to track large warships. Sarah's ship fired first, launching a single quantum disruption missile at the nearest dreadnought. The missile struck the alien ship's energy shield and detonated. Instead of the usual explosion, there was a brilliant flash of white light. The Zephyrian ship's shields flickered and died. Then its weapons went offline. Then its engines stopped working. "Direct hit," Sarah shouted over the radio. "The quantum disruptor works." But the celebration was short-lived. The damaged dreadnought suddenly exploded in a chain reaction that destroyed two nearby Zephyrian ships. The quantum disruption had caused a cascade failure in their power systems. On Thylex 9's flagship, alarm screamed as 3 ships vanished from their formation. The war commander stared at his screens in disbelief. "How?" he demanded. "How can primitive weapons destroy our shields?" His science officer's voice shook as he reported, "Sir, they appear to be using quantum resonance disruption. Our power systems are vulnerable to that type of interference." Thylex 9 felt cold fear creep into his chest. In 3,000 years of conquest, no enemy had ever found a weakness in Zephyrian technology. These humans had done it in 6 months. Commander Dan Wilson coordinated the second wave of Earth's defense from the converted cargo ship Liberty Bell. His vessel had been a simple freight hauler a year ago. Now it carried enough firepower to threaten a Zephyrian cruiser. "Civilian fleet, this is Wilson," he broadcast to the hundreds of converted ships scattered throughout the solar system. "Pattern Delta. Hit them from every direction they don't expect." Mining ships emerged from behind moons, launching drilling charges converted into missiles. Research vessels fired their survey lasers, now boosted to weapons-grade intensity. Even passenger liners had been converted into missile platforms, their cargo holds filled with quantum disruption warheads. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that turned every available resource into a weapon. Their military doctrine assumed they would fight other professional armies with predictable tactics. Humans fought with everything they had. Dr. Rachel Kim watched the battle from her laboratory on Mars. Her quantum disruption technology was working, better than she had hoped. Each successful hit taught them more about Zephyrian weaknesses. "Admiral Brooks," she called over the communication link, "I'm detecting something interesting. When their ships take quantum damage, it affects nearby vessels too. Their entire fleet is connected by quantum fields." Kevin Brooks understood immediately. "If we can cause enough disruption, we might be able to affect their whole fleet at once." "Exactly. But we need to hit their flagship. That's the command node for their quantum network." The battle raged for 6 hours. Earth lost dozens of ships, but the Zephyrians lost more. For every human vessel destroyed, 2 alien dreadnoughts died in cascade failures. The quantum disruption missiles were proving devastatingly effective. Thylex 9 watched his fleet dissolve around him. Ship after ship fell to these impossible weapons. His officers reported casualties that should have been impossible against such primitive opponents. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "the High Command is demanding an explanation. How are we losing to a species that just discovered space travel?" Thylex 9 had no answer. These humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They used tactics that made no sense, weapons that shouldn't work, and a level of coordination that suggested every member of their species was a born warrior. "Retreat," he finally ordered, the word tasting like poison in his mouth. "All ships withdraw to safe distance." The surviving Zephyrian ships began to pull back from Earth's defenses. It was the first retreat in the Empire's 3,000-year history. On Earth, celebration erupted in every city, on every space station, in every human settlement throughout the solar system. They had done the impossible. They had made the galactic overlords retreat. But Admiral Kevin Brooks knew this was just the beginning. The Zephyrians would return with more ships, better tactics, and knowledge of human capabilities. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was far from over. In his cell on Thyros Prime, Jake Martinez felt the vibrations through the ship's hull as emergency alarms sounded throughout the capital. Elder Keth swam over to him, tentacles writhing with excitement. "Something has happened," the old siren whispered. "The guards are frightened. In 47 years I have never seen them frightened." Jake smiled for the first time since his capture. He thought of Amy's emergency transmission, of the brilliant minds working on Earth's defense, of humanity's refusal to accept defeat. Maybe those fireborn warriors from your legends aren't just stories after all, he said. Around the galaxy, news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. On 1,000 enslaved worlds, species that had given up hope began to whisper about the small blue planet that had made the mighty Zephyrian Empire retreat. The age of unquestioned Zephyrian dominance was ending. The age of resistance had begun. News of Earth's victory traveled faster than the Zephyrian Empire could control. Within weeks, reports reached every corner of the galaxy through secret communication networks that enslaved species had built over centuries of oppression. On the aquatic world of Seer, the dolphin-like creatures gathered in their deepest ocean trenches. Elder Meth, cousin to Elder Keith, who remained imprisoned on Thyros Prime, addressed thousands of his people through sonar calls that carried for hundreds of miles. The impossible has happened, he sang in the ancient siren language. The humans have made the Empire retreat. For the first time in 3,000 years, Zephyrian ships have fled from battle. The ocean erupted with calls of joy and disbelief. Young sirens who had never known freedom began to dream of what it might feel like. On the insect world of Vex Prime, Queen Zac 7 received the news through her hive mind network. Her millions of workers and soldiers felt her excitement pulse through their shared consciousness. The Vex had always been warriors, but Zephyrian technology had crushed their resistance decades ago. Now hope stirred in every hive. Prepare, the Queen commanded through the hive mind. The time of waiting may be ending. In the gas giant clouds of Lumina, the energy beings that called themselves the Luminians flickered with new brightness. They had tried to hide from the Zephyrians in the deep atmospheres of their world, but the Empire's quantum sensors had found them anyway. Now they sensed an opportunity. The rebellion began on a dozen worlds at once. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood in the newly constructed command center on Luna, Earth's moon. Banks of screens showed real-time reports from across the galaxy. Each screen displayed another world rising up against their Zephyrian oppressors. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Davis reported, we're receiving communication requests from 17 different alien species. They all want to form an alliance with Earth. Kevin studied the incoming messages. Some were in languages that human computers couldn't translate yet. Others came as mathematical equations or musical tones. But the meaning was clear in all of them. They wanted to fight alongside humanity. Open channels to all of them, Kevin ordered. It's time to form the Galactic Liberation Alliance. General Paul Davis worked with alien military leaders to coordinate joint operations. The Siren underwater cities became hidden bases for human submarines. Vex hive warriors learned human guerrilla tactics. Luminian energy beings infiltrated Zephyrian computer systems. The key is unpredictability, Paul explained to a gathering of rebel leaders. The Zephyrians have conquered through superior technology and overwhelming force, but they've never faced an enemy that refuses to fight by their rules. On Thyros Prime, War Commander Thylex 9 faced the Zephyrian High Command. The crystal chamber where the Empire's leaders met had not seen such chaos in millennia. Reports of rebellion came from every sector of their territory. Explain this disaster, hissed Supreme Overlord Zix Prime, his 6 arms writhing with rage. How have primitives inspired such widespread resistance? Thylex 9 struggled to find words. Supreme Overlord, these humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They coordinate with other races, share technology freely, and seem willing to sacrifice themselves for others. It is unnatural. Unnatural or not, it threatens our empire, Zix Prime replied. You will take additional fleets and crush this rebellion. Destroy entire worlds if necessary. Make them remember why they fear us. Thylex 9 bowed his crystalline head. It will be done, Supreme Overlord. But doubt gnawed at the war commander. Deep in his mind, he wondered if the Empire's methods were truly as invincible as they had always believed. Commander Lisa Grant led a daring mission to rescue prisoners from Zephyrian holding facilities. Her ship, the Freedom Strike, was a captured, Zephyrian vessel modified with human technology. The quantum disruption fields that protected it made it nearly invisible to Empire sensors. Remember, Lisa told her team as they approached the prison world of Thyros Prime, we're not just rescuing Captain Martinez and his crew. Every prisoner we free is another ally in this war. The rescue began during a massive slave revolt that human intelligence had helped coordinate. While Zephyrian guards fought rebellious prisoners in the main compound, Lisa's team infiltrated the high-security cells where the most important captives were held. Jake Martinez had been expecting rescue, eventually, but he was still surprised when the cell door dissolved and Lisa Grant stepped through, wearing captured Zephyrian armor. Captain Martinez, I'm Commander Grant, Earth Defense Force. We're here to get you out. Jake grinned for the first time in months. About time. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about us. Never, sir. Earth doesn't leave its people behind. The rescue team moved quickly through the prison complex. They found Tony Rodriguez in a cell filled with alien technology, where the Zephyrians had been forcing him to repair their equipment. Amy Carter was in a communication chamber, where they had been trying to break her encryption codes. Dr. Lisa Thompson was in a research facility, where Zephyrian scientists had been studying human biology. But Jake's crew wasn't the only prize. Elder Keth and dozens of other alien prisoners joined the escape. Each one carried valuable intelligence about Zephyrian weaknesses and the locations of other resistant cells. The quantum resonance frequencies, Elder Keth explained, as they fled through the prison corridors. We've been studying them for decades. The Luminians discovered how to disrupt them completely. During the escape, something unexpected happened. A Zephyrian officer named Kylex III approached Jake's group with his hands raised in surrender. Please, the alien said in broken English, I wish to join your cause. The Empire has committed terrible crimes. I can no longer serve such evil. Jake studied the Zephyrian carefully. After months of captivity, he had learned to read their body language. This one seemed genuinely distressed. Why should we trust you? Jake asked. Because I have access to strategic databases, fleet positions, supply routes, weapon specifications, everything you need to win this war. The defection of Kylex III provided the rebellion with complete intelligence on Zephyrian military operations. For the first time, the rebels knew exactly where enemy forces were positioned and how they planned to respond to attacks. Back on Earth, Dr. Rachel Kim worked with Luminian energy beings to perfect the quantum disruption technology. The aliens' understanding of energy manipulation far exceeded human knowledge, but human engineering could build weapons the Luminians couldn't create themselves. The cascade effect can be enhanced, a Luminian named Brightspark explained through a translation device. If we target the quantum anchor points, we can collapse entire fleet formations. The war reached a turning point when Thylex IX made his fatal mistake. Frustrated by continued losses and growing rebellion, he ordered the complete destruction of 3 rebel worlds, including their civilian populations. Billions died in orbital bombardments that turned planets into lifeless rocks. The genocide backfired catastrophically. Species that had remained neutral now joined the rebellion. Even some Zephyrian commanders began to question orders that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Admiral Kevin Brooks addressed the expanded Galactic Liberation Alliance from the captured Zephyrian command ship that now served as rebel headquarters. They have shown their true nature, he said to representatives from 47 species. The Zephyrian Empire rules through fear and murder. But fear loses its power when people choose to fight back together. Queen Zach VII of the Vex spoke for all the insect warriors. The hives declare total war against the Empire. We will fight until every world is free. The Siren representative, Elder Meth, added his voice. The oceans of 1,000 worlds will rise against oppression. Brightspark flickered with intense energy. The Luminians pledge our power to the cause of freedom. Jake Martinez, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Alliance, felt pride swell in his chest. Humanity had started this rebellion, but it had grown into something much larger. The galaxy was uniting against tyranny for the first time in recorded history. On Thyros Prime, Supreme Overlord Zix Prime studied reports of the growing rebellion with growing concern. The empire that had seemed invincible was cracking under pressure from species they had considered inferior. "Perhaps," he said to his advisors, "it is time to negotiate." But War Commander Thylex 9 disagreed. "Supreme Overlord, we cannot show weakness. One decisive victory will crush their spirits." Zix Prime's eyes glowed with dangerous light. "Then prepare our entire fleet. We will show these rebels the full power of the Zephyrian Empire." The stage was set for the final battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The final battle began at the edge of the Thyros system, where the last Zephyrian fleet made its stand around their homeworld. Supreme Overlord Zix Prime had gathered every remaining ship in the Empire, over 800 massive dreadnoughts, that formed a wall of crystalline death around their capital planet. Fleet Admiral Emma Stone commanded the combined forces of the Galactic Liberation Alliance from the flagship Liberator. The rebel fleet was a strange sight. Human ships flying alongside Siren biovessels, Vex hive ships and Luminian energy crafts that looked like living stars. 47 different species had sent their warriors to this final battle. All ships. "This is Admiral Stone," she broadcast to the massive fleet. "Today we end 3,000 years of tyranny. Fight for your worlds. Fight for your children. Fight for freedom." Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the Liberator beside Admiral Stone. After his rescue from Thyros Prime, he had been given command of the ship's tactical operations. His months as a prisoner had taught him everything about Zephyrian weaknesses. Defector Kylex 3 reports that their quantum network hub is located in the Imperial Palace, Jake informed the Admiral. "If we can destroy that, their entire fleet will lose coordination." Admiral Stone nodded. "Then that's our target. All units begin the attack." The battle erupted across space with the fury of a dying star. Zephyrian energy beams lanced out at the approaching rebel fleet, but the Alliance had learned from previous battles. Ships scattered in unpredictable patterns using asteroids and debris as cover, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Queen Zack 7 led her Vex fighters in swarms that moved like living clouds. The insect warriors had no fear of death, throwing their small ships against Zephyrian dreadnoughts in suicide attacks that triggered quantum cascade failures. The Siren bioships, grown rather than built, proved almost impossible to track on sensors. They slipped through Zephyrian formations like ghosts, launching biomissiles that ate through enemy armor. The Luminians were perhaps the most devastating of all. Being pure energy, they could phase directly through Zephyrian shields and sabotage ships from the inside. Entire dreadnoughts suddenly went dark as their power systems were consumed by angry energy beings. But the humans provided the coordination that turned chaos into victory. General Paul Davis directed the battle from multiple command ships, adapting tactics in real time as the situation changed. Human commanders had learned to think like their alien allies, combining different species' strengths into devastating combination attacks. Supreme Overlord Zix Prime watched his fleet dissolve from the safety of his palace on Thyros Prime. Reports came in of ship after ship falling to these impossible rebels. How had primitives learned to fight so effectively? "My lord," his tactical advisor reported. "The rebels are breaking through our outer defenses. They're heading directly for the planet." Zix Prime's crystalline face showed no emotion, but inside he felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. "Prepare the planetary defense systems. We will make them pay for every meter of ground." The surface of Thyros Prime erupted with defensive fire as the rebel fleet approached. Massive energy cannons, hidden in crystal mountains, reached out to swat approaching ships from the sky. But Dr. Rachel Kim's quantum disruption technology had evolved during months of warfare. "Fire quantum cascade missiles," Jake ordered from the Liberator's bridge. "Target the planetary defense grid." The missiles struck like hammers of pure science. Each impact sent waves of quantum disruption through the planet's defense network. Weapons that had protected Thyros Prime for millennia suddenly shut down one by one. Commander Lisa Grant led the ground assault with a mixed force of human marines, Vex warriors, and Siren amphibious troops. They landed near the Imperial Palace, fighting through gardens of crystal trees and courtyards filled with alien art stolen from conquered worlds. The Zephyrian Imperial Guard fought desperately, but they had never faced an enemy that combined so many different fighting styles. Human tactics blended with Vex hive mind coordination and Siren fluid movement to create something entirely new. Inside the palace, Admiral Kevin Brooks led a strike team toward the Quantum Network hub. The corridors were filled with the sounds of battle as rebels fought their way deeper into the heart of Zephyrian power. The hub should be just ahead, Kylex 3 told them, the defector Zephyrian proving his worth by guiding them through the maze-like palace. But Supreme Overlord Zix Prime will defend it personally. They found Zix Prime in the Quantum Chamber, a vast room filled with pulsing crystals that coordinated the Empire's military communications. The Supreme Overlord stood alone, his 6 arms spread wide as energy crackled around him. "So the primitives have come to challenge me directly," Zix Prime said, his voice like breaking glass. "I am surprised you made it this far." Admiral Brooks stepped forward, his weapon raised but not yet firing. "It's over. Your fleet is defeated. Your palace is taken. Surrender now and your people can live in peace with the rest of the galaxy." Zix Prime laughed, a sound like crystal bells shattering. "Peace? The strong do not make peace with the weak. I will show you the true power of the Zephyrian Empire." The Supreme Overlord raised all 6 arms, and the quantum crystals around the room began to glow with deadly energy. Kevin realized that Zix Prime intended to overload the quantum network, creating an explosion that would destroy the planet and everyone on it. But Jake Martinez had learned much during his imprisonment. He understood Zephyrian technology better than any other human. As Zix Prime began the overload sequence, Jake pulled out a small device that Dr. Rachel Kim had built specifically for this moment. "Not today," Jake said, and activated the quantum disruptor. The effect was immediate. Instead of building to an explosion, the quantum crystals began to shut down one by one. The energy that Zix Prime was channeling turned back on itself, and the Supreme Overlord screamed as his own power consumed him. With the quantum network destroyed, every Zephyrian ship in the system lost coordination. Their weapons stopped firing. Their engines went offline and their shields collapsed. The mighty fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for 3,000 years drifted helplessly in space. Admiral Stone's voice echoed across all communication channels. "Attention all Zephyrian forces. Your Supreme Overlord is dead, and your command structure is destroyed. Surrender now and you will be treated with mercy." One by one, Zephyrian ships began transmitting surrender signals. War Commander Thylex 9, aboard his damaged flagship, stared at the transmission with something like relief. The empire he had served his entire life was gone, but perhaps something better could take its place. "Open a channel to the rebel fleet," he ordered his communications officer. "This is War Commander Thylex 9. I surrender my forces unconditionally. We request permission to help rebuild what we have destroyed." 3 days later, representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered in the ruins of the Imperial Palace. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood before them, no longer a military commander, but a diplomat helping to forge a new future. "The Galactic Democratic Council will replace the Empire," he announced. "Every species will have a voice, every world will govern itself. The age of conquest is over." Jake Martinez became the first human ambassador to the new galactic government. His crew, who had started this war by accident, now helped shape the peace that followed. Amy Carter established the new Galactic Communication Network. Tony Rodriguez led teams that converted Zephyrian war machines into tools for rebuilding. Dr. Lisa Thompson worked with alien scientists to heal worlds damaged by centuries of exploitation. Elder Keth, finally free after 47 years of imprisonment, spoke for many when he addressed the council. The fireborn warriors of legend were real after all, but they brought not destruction, but hope. Some Zephyrians, like Thylex 9 and Kylex 3, sought redemption by helping their former victims. Others retreated to remote worlds, unable to accept that their empire was gone forever, but the galaxy moved forward without them. Years later, Jake Martinez stood on the observation deck of the new council headquarters, watching ships from dozens of species working together in space. His reflection in the window showed gray hair and lines around his eyes, but his smile was genuine. Amy Carter joined him at the window. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never encountered that Zephyrian patrol?" Jake considered the question. "The Empire would have found Earth eventually, but maybe we wouldn't have been ready. Maybe we needed that warning to become who we were meant to be." And who were we meant to be? Jake watched a human ship dock alongside a Vex Hive vessel, their crews working together to unload supplies for a new colony world. The species that refused to accept that anyone should rule through fear, the ones who proved that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The galaxy was free, and it would stay that way as long as beings like humans existed to remind everyone that freedom was worth fighting for. The stars belonged to everyone now,